Why search-based knowledge is not scholarly knowledge. How search engines and AI decide what counts as knowledge. Many people assume that if information appears confidently on Google, Wikipedia, or through AI research tools, it must be accurate, complete, and authoritative. This assumption is understandable, but it is incorrect. In academic research, how knowledge is produced matters as much as what is said. Colleges do not prohibit the use of platforms like Google or Wikipedia out of elitism. They restrict them because these platforms fail to meet the basic standards of scholarly credibility. What counts as legitimate research? In academic settings, legitimate research requires identifiable authorship, traceable primary sources, transparent methodology, peer review, or archival verification, the ability to challenge, revise, or falsify claims. Books, journals, archival records, archaeological reports, and vetted databases meet these criteria. Platform summaries do not. Google, Wikipedia, and AI tools are tertiary sources. They do not create knowledge. They mass collect data, summarize, and rank existing material, usually material that is already digitized, indexed, and widely circulated. Mass collection and ranking of data is not scholarship. The digitization problem no one talks about. Here is the central flaw most users never consider. What is not digitized does not exist to platforms. This disproportionately affects Black history and scholarship. Much of the most important work documenting Black civilizations, migrations, land ownership, resistance movements, cultural systems, and intellectual traditions exists in physical books, out-of-print texts, university research libraries, restricted archives, oral histories, field reports, church, land, and community records. These sources were never mass digitized. When platforms rely almost exclusively on digital corpora, they silently exclude enormous bodies of valid knowledge. Absence is mistaken for absence of evidence. Bias is not an accident. It is structural. When digital platforms acknowledge that their outputs can reflect contributor bias, historical bias, or algorithmic bias, they are not making a minor disclaimer. They are acknowledging a structural limitation. Bias enters at multiple points. Who writes and edits content? Which works are scanned and indexed? Which narratives are repeated and cited? Which contradictions are ignored? Which topics receive editorial attention? Once biased material becomes widely repeated online, repetition itself is mistaken for truth. This is how inaccurate claims gain authority, not because they are correct, but because they are digitally convenient. Why colleges still rely on research libraries. Universities maintain massive databases and physical research libraries because platform knowledge cannot replace archival knowledge. Students are trained to read primary text directly, cross-reference hostile or biased sources, verify claims independently, trace ideas to their origin, understand historical context rather than summaries. This process is slower, but it protects against distortion, especially distortion that disproportionately erases or minimizes marginalized histories. A critical warning for Black students and independent scholars. Platform tools can be useful for orientation, vocabulary, and discovery. They should never be treated as final authorities on Black history, identity, or intellectual contribution. If a claim about Black people cannot be traced to named scholars, relies only on platform summaries, dismisses contradictions without addressing archives, declares There is no evidence without citing primary sources. That claim should be challenged. Truth does not require popularity to exist. Research is an act of self-defense. For communities whose histories were suppressed, misclassified, or deliberately distorted, research is not neutral. It is an act of preservation. Outsourcing knowledge entirely to systems that admit their own incompleteness is not progress. It is surrendering intellectual sovereignty. The tools are not evil, but they are not sufficient. And knowing the difference is the beginning of true literacy. This has been a production of The Quiet Parts Out Loud by The Last Witness for Black News and Views.